Hello and welcome to etbfsi.com. In this session, the modernization charter for future of BFSI, we are going to explore the major developments in the BFSI sector in terms of digital infrastructure. We will try to discover how BFSI companies are moving forward from the legacy infrastructure and building better capabilities for the future. And I have with me the best minds from the whole BFSI ecosystem here. Let me introduce them to you. My first speaker for this session is Mr. Ian Day, the CTO, Exide Life Insurance. Ian, glad to have you.
Thank you, Amol.
My next speaker is Mr. Gagan Singla, the CDO, HDFC Securities. Gagan, glad to have you. My next speaker is Mr. Pankaj Gupta, the CTO of Bharti Exide Life Insurance. Pankaj, glad to have you.
Thank you, Amol.
My next speaker is Mr. Sridhar S, VP Managed Services, Cloud Hosting and Security, Tata Communications Limited. Sridhar, glad to have you.
Thank you, Amol.
And my next speaker is Mr. Vaibhav Joshi, the CDO, Equitas Small Finance Bank. Mr. Joshi, glad to have you. So to begin with, gentlemen, I have a few common questions and I have a few very specific questions as well. And we are going to discuss the modernization charter for the future of BFSI. So obviously we have been seeing the digital transformation, but let's speak about certain points about how you are treating digital adoption, what kind of technologies you're embracing. And to begin with, I have a common question for all of you. And that question is, what is there in your chart of modernization for the future? Or if I put it in other words, what's next for BFSI when it comes to digital adoption? And Ian, I will start it with you.
Yeah, thank you, Amol, and good afternoon to all esteemed panelists here. It's always a pleasure to be part of these discussions because this gives me also, a lot of opportunity of learning from, different parts of the BFSI segment. While I represent the insurance industry, life insurance to be specific, but then every time I come and participate in these panels, I also get to hear from the other parts of the entire BFSI vertical. So I'll be very keen to hear from Gagan as well today, because he will bring in definitely a different perspective. And of course, Pankaj is a good friend here who will also possibly talk a little more about the life side of it. So thank you, Amol. When we look about the future, we I think have already been on a spaceship for the last 18 months, if you ask me. And there had been some jokes going around in the social media that who was responsible for the maximum digital change in your organization. A, B, C, and D was COVID. So we all opted for option D. We are all aware of that across industries. And this, in fact, ensured that insurance, at least as an industry, which was a little slow for the uptake in aspects of digital, we were pushed to a corner where there was no other option but to adopt digital. And now is a situation where I would say almost everyone in the industry, and I'm not talking only about the Indian geography, but across markets, across geographies, that everyone is now looking at consolidating what has been gained in the last 18 months. So while COVID, of course, had its own different connotations across the globe, but for the insurance industry, this was actually a gold mine that was discovered. And we realized that this is the time when we have to build assets. And now, after having seen all of this delivered in the last 18 months, this is the time when all of us are actually consolidating the gains that has been made in this period. Now, if you ask me, going forward, the customer has now been spoiled for choices. And we all understand that insurance, I mean, typically, if you look at the 100-year-old industry as it has been, especially life insurance, has always been a tricky product to sell. The basic reason is the proposition from which a life insurance policy is sold, the basic premise on which the policy is sold. So given that it already was a difficult product to sell and it was always a push product, it is a complex product. It's a financial decision that the customer typically makes over a period of 20-25 years. It's a commitment, and more importantly, it is not like buying a packet of let's say a pack of toothpaste. It's an intangible promise, basically. In that situation, it becomes more difficult. How do you sell a product like this using a digital platform? But then this is something which was quickly adopted by the entire industry. And customer also has now woken up to this, this specific way of transacting business on insurance. And this is what he is looking forward even for the extended service for the next 20-25 years, till when he is going to have this policy in place. So this is an option which has been clearly cut out. And like every other service today that the customer, I mean, you and me put together, we only have to pick up our phone and that's it. For every single thing that we think about, the customer today is in a space, in a zone where he feels that an insurance product should be as simple like picking up a movie on the Netflix app, or booking your ride on an Uber app, or possibly booking up a room on Airbnb. Now he doesn't really understand. I have been following this psychology for the last 12 months or so. I have realized that he is not willing to understand that insurance is a more serious business than watching a movie, perhaps.
Right.
His expectations have come to a stage where he feels that when he picks up the phone, the entire transaction should be as smooth as just booking a cab. So this is where the consumer mindset has now gone to, and this is where the entire insurance industry is being led to. And there is no other option but to enable everything on digital. So this is my opening take on this, Amol.
Right. Noted your points, Ayan, and I think you gave a nice, comment specifically on the experience. I think seamless experience matters a lot, but what cost and whether we need that kind of experience, I think, is also important, because I have been listening to a lot from the CDOs and CTOs, and everybody is carrying this agenda that I want to provide a Netflix-like an experience to my, customers. So I think a very valid point, Ayan, there, and. I think we understood the insurance perspective. I will take insurance perspective from Pankaj as well, but let me take before that perspective from market, the securities market or the asset. So Gagan, your comment.
Hi Amol, hi everyone. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So thanks for having me here. It is obviously a lot of learning. See, in case of, I think I will stick to the question about modernization, right? So in the world of technology modernization and the digital modernization, there is this concept in economics called lambda K and lambda C, where lambda K, lambda C are just terminologies to talk about when the whole plan of the country's governance is to work on creating steel plants or better iron ore, right? Or better minerals and so on. So do more on the fundamentals, right? While lambda C is more about consumption side, the consumer side. When you create, so how the steel is used. So if you create lambda K, if you make more steel plants, you will probably have more stadiums, right? Because stadium needs too much steel, right? So generally, when you do modernization, even at a company level or at an industry level, you will need to work on these two areas. You fundamentally change infrastructure, right? You look at cloud, like the BFSI, a lot of players don't have cloud, right? They're working on-prem. So moving to cloud or moving such kind of fundamental changes. On the other side, you work on the consumption side, right? How good is your digital marketing? How good is your front end, UX, all the modernization from the first of UX journeys, consumer journeys, all of that. Right? So there are two parts, the fundamentals as well as the consumer side. My personal learning is that the lambda K matters more than lambda C, is what my learning is in last 2 years. Because increasingly, initially I always started working on UX and UIs and modernization thing. But what has happened is that a lot of that has gone into the hands of the consumers or in the hands of the influencers or the channel partners or many other people. There are too many entrepreneurs in the country right now. And when I talk about entrepreneurs, I'm not talking about startups. I'm talking about every person is an entrepreneur, right? So many people are not into jobs anymore. They work independently, right? So if you are creating a fundamental infrastructure which creates a platform, right? For example, in securities, making sure that you have open APIs, right? You have a method for various entrepreneurs to utilize your fundamentals and open their own small amount of securities trading platforms. I should not call platforms, but there are various players, there are various entrepreneurs of 5 people who are creating some very intelligent technology for a user, for actual users to do trading better, to find a stock better. But those people need some infrastructure like an open API or maybe something like a serverless technology, which, so if a large firm like us or many other firms like us offer that kind of fundamental usable front infrastructure to entrepreneurs, they will actually give you the modernization that you want, right? So the focus significantly is on creating that physical and software infrastructure, both hardware and software infrastructure. And that modernization will be given by the engagement which comes from the market and the entrepreneurs which are in the market, right? So that is where the focus is. That is where my personal focus is. I don't know if that sums up the company's focus, but my personal focus is to create that infra, right? So opening up these days, you can open up SDKs, you can open up so many things within the possibilities of compliance, within the possibilities of internal processes and whatever is possible from technology. And then there are so many entrepreneurs out there who will actually give the modernization that your company needs. So that is where my mind is headed as I work towards the modernization of the firm or the industry or or the securities industry or BFSI. I understand mostly security. I don't understand other BFSI well, honestly, but that is how I think about modernization.
Okay, noted your points, Ravan. Very, very valid points. Pankaj, I would like to take your views now.
Thank you, first of all, for this opportunity. So when it comes to modernization, I think for the future, I think there are multiple parts to it for any organization, and will I extend to what Ayan already mentioned about life insurance. But if you ask me, there are multiple parts to this, right? Starting from a product proposition to a customer experience, and how do we bring excellence to operations, and how do we tap the ecosystem, and hence an organization has to play on all those fronts to really be part of this journey. Whether it's about product proposition to create more specific need-based products and differentiating products in the market, which obviously also requires some new age product platforms, for instance, that organizations are now willing to explore. And of course, going to the customer experience aspects, which is about how do you build your customer and seller journeys, which are far more intelligent, data-driven, leverage artificial intelligence to be able to nudge to the customer at the right point in time, and also creating that whole API capability for the organization so that it becomes more of a pluggable insurer. I think these are some of the things which are very important for the organization. And how do we bring operational excellence so as to bring efficiency to their processes, and of course at the end of it pass that benefit to the customer by lowering your TATs, lowering the friction for the customer, and so on and so forth. And of course, extending that to use of analytics, for instance, for a far more sharper, risk management. Life insurance is all about risk, and how do you make that sharper, and how do you create more cross-sell opportunities and revenue assurance. All this, if you could do in an embedded, more like an embedded insurance for your distribution, I think that is really where the things are heading. That's where organizations like Bharti AXA Life are also hinging towards. Of course, it can only be done through use of right technology, whether it's AI, ML, whether it's being on cloud, whether it's using some cloud-ready CRMs or building customer 360 views, etc., etc. So that's really what I believe modernization is for a life insurer. And I think most of the organizations, I would say, are now really heading into this direction.
Okay, again, very valid points, I think, from all of you. Let me get some tech perspective here. And Sridhar, I will tweak the question for you. I mean, we understood the CTOs and the innovation heads of the BFSI companies talking about it. Now, my question to you specifically, Sridhar, is, since you belong to a company which is, talking about the technology, how are you seeing the infrastructure shift in the BFSI sector? And how are you dealing with it? The kinds of changes that the BFSI companies are doing at infrastructure level. I mean, what is your view here?
Okay. Thanks, Amol. I think those were excellent perspectives from all three of them. And I think I will lead into the answer by paraphrasing some of the points that all three of them mentioned, right? So firstly, everyone talked about how customers are today beginning to expect. And I like the way all of them took examples of Uber and Netflix, because those are the new age experiences that you want customers to have, right? So getting closer to the customer while maintaining social distancing obviously is one of the important things. How do you turn around faster? How do you enable digital methods? That's one. Second is, how do you provide the uniform user experience across all the platforms? And we're talking about omni-channel experience, right? So across various segments. And now, in addition to what has already existed, today you have newer vehicles and newer channels. And since we're talking about insurance closely, let me take an example. See, there was a time when agents used to come and sit in your house and try and educate you on what the policy is. And they would simulate something. And just think of a situation. They would take some inputs from you and show you a sample, but they will probably log in back to your infrastructure with someone else sitting on the phone, and they will simulate that and they'll get it there. So effectively, there is a two-factor authentication required. They have a certain access and someone else has got a certain access. So that model is now changing. And today you're beginning to see a whole new range of digital aggregators who are coming into the picture and enabling, much like your Uber and your Zomatos and Swiggies. You're beginning to see a new range of aggregators who are coming in between. And that, like what Gagan pointed out, necessitates an engagement across the ecosystem whereby you are able to talk to each other, engage each other, and enable these vehicles. And then you got to convert a lot of your offline processes to online, because especially this financial industry is you're known for using all these things aggressively, right? And lastly, with all this in place, how do you enable the entire system to be secure becomes important. So this is the set of things that they're looking at. And if I were to translate this into what is it throwing up at a technology level, firstly, it throws up infrastructure related challenges. We talk about, do we have the right kind of infrastructure? Do you have the DR? Do you have a three-way DR? Because that's becoming an important consideration today. Do you have the right kind of infrastructure that is capable of providing you whatever the kind of the uptimes that you need to keep up? So these are basics of the technology. But I think today that's reaching a point where it's a given. The next stage that you go to is on the application readiness and enablement. Now, this is where the dynamics have changed from, we moved from an inflection point of scale up to scale out architectures. Today, we're moving to the concept of serverless, and containerized architecture. Now, how are you going to enable this to happen? What sort of SaaS solutions are you going to take? For example, you want to establish, I think someone talked about data lakes. Someone talked about CRM. So how do you establish that data lake? How do you establish the CRM system? Do you want to use it off the shelf, or do you want to develop something customized on your own? How do you bring AI and ML methods into that? Things like that. How do you build in a modular fashion? The application related facets. First is infrastructure, second is application. Third, and I think most important, becomes the compliance related aspect. A compliance aspect could be as, I think, fundamental as stating that this place where this infrastructure is housed needs to be constantly monitored by closed circuit cameras, and that footage has to be made available when an auditor comes to you. So it involves first creating the infrastructure, second the ability to collect them, and the third to have the right kind of people to support when the audit does happen. So it could start from something as simple as that to actually, like I said, whether it is a three-way DR or whether it is a data storage patterns, and whether it is other certifications and compliances, PCI DSS, SEBI compliance, RBI compliance, and all that. So the entire gamut of compliance becomes very, very important. And then comes ecosystem. We talked about it, providing the API gateway, being able to enable this, sharing of codes, and finally focus on the application lifecycle management rather than the technology below. And then lastly, how do you keep this whole thing under the envelope of security? So these are the considerations that we gathered during our various interactions, and I am glad I found the same points today. And this is exactly what we took as our design consideration when we launched our ISO-Fin Cloud. It takes care of each and every one of these parameters in providing all these on a platter to the BFSI segment in particular. So I'll stop here for now.
Thanks. Noted your point, Sridhar, and let me come with some specific questions, and I will come back to you. And I have a couple of specific questions for all of you. So you mentioned about the push product. Is that's the right thing? I mean, still in the digital world, people have to actually push insurance product. Obviously, we have seen certain changes in last couple of years, basically, but we still not reached to a level where push has shifted to pull completely. So my question to you, Ayan, is since there is a constant change in the expectation of the policyholders, how are you modernizing yourself at your company level to cater to all these needs? I mean, we partly discussed about Netflix and all those experiences, but what are the changes that you are making in your company, to cater to the new age customers?
Yeah, thanks, Amol. So it's basically an extension of what we have been discussing. Excite Life has also been at the forefront of driving most of these, expectations from the new age customer. And honestly, Amol, actually, initially when we started about 3 years back, at that point of time, we were thinking that we are going to address, the millennia crowd. Basically, that's where most of the industry was actually focusing at. And what COVID did was that they converted the entire population into that millennia crowd. Now everyone is expecting the same level of servicing and the sale experience, which I think Pankaj also mentioned initially. Now I come from an industry which has typically two segments of customers. One, very, very carefully curated, my own internal customers, which are my agents basically. Now their agents are not my employees, they're my partners, they're my business partners. So they represent a very, very strong segment of internal customers for me. Right. And then, of course, the policy holders, which, of course, we are all aware, they are the external customers. Now, when COVID stuck, in fact, that was the point when we realized that without some of these things, the entire sale process will not move. So it was becoming imperative for us. Of course, it was fortunate for us that we had started some of these initiatives almost 8 months before March 20. And that was a reason that we could seamlessly slide into that position where, there was no struggle of neither our agents, getting into that kind of a mode of selling through digital platforms, nor for our other partners. That is the other brokers and partners who participate in the business. But the challenge was the customer, because the customer is the one who is the mover and shaker in this market. So typically, we have now gone ahead and, packaged the entire sale process. That is starting from the financial need analysis for the customer, just to understand that what exactly, he would be in a given stage of his life where he would need a particular type of a financial product. It can be an insurance product, it can be something else also. But if it is an insurance product, then what type of insurance product is that he requires? Now, starting from that careful scientific study, and that is also enabled through a built-in AI in the mobile app itself, which the agent uses, which helps him, to sort of get a proper brief and a background of the customer and help him select the right type of a product. Starting from there to pitch the product, to understand the risk profile from where the customer comes in from. Now we are in the business of risk, and it is very, very important for us to do the right profiling and right at the beginning when the sale is happening, when the contract is being drawn up, to actually understand that what is the profile of the customer that we are engaging with. So at that point also an AI sort of chips in, and it helps us actually identify the right customer profile, his background, his risk structure. And basis that, then the product is also sort of, it is pitched to the agent. In our industry, for specifically for this type of, internal customers like agents, it is a huge churn that continues to happen month on month, actually. So it becomes very difficult for us to hold on, to vintage agents. And because this is a complex product to sell, every time when you bring in a new agent, it is again a very big task for him to explain the entire business of an insurance product and the entire process of sale. So we have now curated our selling app in a sense that the agent need not go through a long training program. So the app itself, guides him, and just with possibly with a week's training, basics about insurance, he is ready to hit the market. And the agent actually is not only his guide, it is also his lifeline. Right. So the app actually tells him that this is the type of product, this is the person you have to meet. It also helps him plan his entire movement throughout the day. The geofencing facilities actually plan the entire day for him, between him and the manager. The manager can actually track that this agent is going to meet such and such person, Then after that, when he's meeting that person, the customer, with the basics of the customer, which is already fed in that particular app, the agent can quickly start, conversing in a language or from the perspective or the background where the customer is comfortable with.
Right.
And then subsequently, the AI will also nudge him to pitch the right product. From there, all different forms of digital payments are enabled. We are now linked with practically all different KYC, platforms which are available digitally on the today in the market. So you understand, when you do an insurance buying, there is so much documentation that has to be done. Now, all of that is now also digitized. So even today, now the regulator has allowed us to take a digital signature from the customer. I mean, just imagine how much we have moved as an industry from days back then. And all of this is captured digitally. The agent's report is captured digitally. And then finally, even the type and the profile of the customer whom he has to meet, even that is done in the background through an analytics engine. And it actually then takes him to the type of the customer with whom his age and profile will match with. So typically a senior agent will go and meet a senior citizen type of a customer, because possibly a senior citizen, he will feel more comfortable that, okay, this is the person who is already in his 50s and he has seen most of the life, and he would actually be comfortable talking so many other things. Whereas when we are meeting, let's say, a millennial guy in his mid-20s, just started working, and if I send that same 50-year-old agent to talk to him, he will think that, okay, this grandpa will not understand even ABC of technology. So then we will put that type of an agent with the same age profile and go and meet him. All this is being done through an AI engine which runs in the background, which runs the analytics, and fed by a very strong machine learning engine behind, and on a day-to-day basis. And not only why day-to-day, it's on an hourly basis that these kind of information is fed to the agents on the field, and that takes care of our selling part of it. When it comes to the customer part of it, his expectations have naturally skyrocketed. So it's practically blue sky thinking for him. So he wants everything to be done on his mobile phone. And now he is in a space, I tell you, Amol, in the last 12 months, he has stopped even looking at the app. Now he wants every transaction to be completed on WhatsApp. So just like, sending a message and sharing something on WhatsApp as we keep on doing, the customer today wants even a serious transaction like an insurance service to be also be completed in WhatsApp itself. So there we had to introduce a number of bots. And of course, since the profiling of the customer happens in the background, we have been successful in actually, doing some targeted servicing in the lines of what Amazon or Netflix does. So we know exactly when a particular type of customer, he is willing to pay his premium. So in insurance parlance, there is something called a grace period. So let's say the day your premium is due, after that, typically a 30-day period is available to you for paying the premium. This is called the grace period. Now we have a certain segment of customers who will only pay during the grace period. They will not pay during, just before the premium is due. So earlier what used to happen was that our contact center people would continuously call and bug such people, such customers. And they would really get, so much nonplussed that why are you calling me? You look at my history and you will find that I have always been paying, but only after the due date is over. Now with this kind of, ML engine running in the background, we have simply stopped calling such customers up to the due date. And looking at their behavior only after, within that 7-day period, typically looking at their behavior in the past, we would go and we would actually remind them that, sir, your premium is due. Similarly, now we have a very strong humanoid voice bot working for us. So for example, let's say I am driving from Bangalore to Chennai and it's heavy rains, and I get a call from this bot, for example, for a reminder for a renewal premium. And naturally, I will be looking at the highway and I'll be a little worried about the traffic and all that. So I would simply say, sorry, I am driving right now. And instantly, the bot would look up my location and it would look at the weather and it will say, sir, heavy rain is predicted in the area you are driving. please drive safe. And he will disconnect the call. So,
Understood.
with these kind of very, very personalized interaction, this is what the customer is looking for. The customer is willing to share his data more.
Right.
But
So very well said, Ayan. In fact,
he gets
customer,
a specific service delivered to him. Very, very customized to his persona.
Yeah.
So a lot of things are happening, both for my internal customers and for external customers. And thankfully, since we are sitting in Bangalore, we, the cradle of the crucible of technology in this country. So we keep on meeting, some brilliant minds like Sridhar, and we keep on, delivering more and more services to our customers. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Ayan, for giving a meaningful, what you can say, examples here. I think it was a detailed perspective. And I know, a lot of changes have happened in insurance. When I started reporting on this sector, there were 12 to 13 companies. Now it's more than 24. So that's the growth in numbers. And I think the demands are increasing. But, considering the demands or the customized service which the insurance companies has to offer, a lot of things has to be done at the background, such as data integration, the digital infrastructure need to be improved and all. And Gagan, I will bring you back here, and I will, I would like you to start from where you ended. So could you please tell us, what are the major changes that the companies should do in terms of shifting from legacy to modern infrastructure? What are the challenges they face over there? Because now the companies are shifting from data center to cloud. They are going for hybrid cloud. Somebody is going for public cloud, but they are facing a lot of challenges over there. So how do you think, they're shifting there, and what are the major challenges they face?
Hi, Amol. Am I audible again? I'm just checking because these days.
Yes.
Amol, I do have a hard stop in 10-15 minutes from now.
Sure.
But I'll just, so just to answer your question. You see, in my view, as I said, the fundamentals need to be built, because one learning I've had is that when modernization or technology improvement started, and everybody wanted in BFSI to go to the consumer with better experiences, right? Everybody built a lot of good front-end technology, but the backend was not ready and not built in a way that it can handle the front-end requirements, right? Examples of personalization, as we were hearing, and so on. Some of those can only work, right, if your backend is able to scale, and it does have the right data layers, it does have the right infrastructure layers to be able to provide those informations, right? So if there are a lot of things that they're back. If you go deeper into technology, we'll see that there are a lot of things which are there at the back end which we don't realize, right? And we keep looking at the front end, keep thinking that this particular industry or firm or the e-commerce industry is doing so well in terms of technology as compared to BFSI in general. That's the view, right? But a lot of it is because of the way infrastructure is built at the back end, right? So, for example, we talked about APIs, right? Talking about Open API or an Open API architecture is very easy, right? But building an API infrastructure, messaging exchange infrastructure at the back end, which can support very fast, very easy to use APIs, which every entrepreneur can easily consume and build their solution on top of it, is not that easy, right? You will need pretty high-end quality of coding. You will need pretty high-end quality of infrastructure. There is enough news in the market which is public about how HDFC Group is going to move to cloud as a group, right? There's enough news which has come out in the last 1 week and the last 2 months, right? And you will see that we are looking at cloud from multiple clouds. Right? We are actually moving to GCP and AWS and Azure put together, right? And HDFC Group being the size it is, some of the things that we do are always the first ever. And it is the most complex, because we do have a very complex and a large business, right? So even for the players of the quality of Google, of the size of Google, it is sometimes the first use case they've ever heard, right? And we actually build up some very, very interesting and very deep architectures there. So it's always in UI, UX for the big was not so easy, right? But now you can build those things right, left, and center, right? But so that way, some of those things have become much more easier now, but the backend has become more and more complex now. And as Sridhar pointed out, with compliance there, right, significant compliance out there, and significant risk out there, and your ability to your focus on making everything for the consumer completely safe and secure, but still opening up so many things is a double-edged sword, right? And therefore you have to do it very carefully and very deeply. And lot of intelligence goes into the AI ML also. So I'll stop here because I think that answer. If it doesn't answer, I can go further with any specific.
No, sure, Gagan. I mean, we'll still take one round of questions, and please stay back. We'll try our best to finish in next 10-15 minutes. Pankaj, I will bring you back here, again, and the whole world is now talking, specifically the BFSI companies, about UI and UX. That has become a very critical aspect for the BFSI company. So what kinds of major changes are you making at backend in terms of infrastructure, for a seamless distribution of insurance? I mean, somebody's talking about cloud, somebody's talking about other infrastructure. What are the changes that you are making?
So undoubtedly, UX is paramount to drive any digital business with customer at this, customer at the heart of it. But it has to come along with a very strong, flexible, and kind of a scalable backend. I think the key is to really componentize your architecture well. If you have the right components, and if you could, almost think of it as like a Lego style components, which are API enabled, and it's all about how do you compose all of these Lego components to quickly create customer journeys, orchestrating APIs, so that you can hook onto your various to the ecosystem. And as Gagan rightly mentioned, API infrastructure. I mean, it's easy to to set it up, but then when you get into the execution of creating the orchestration API, that is where you really need to sit down very carefully and create right kind of design patterns, integration patterns. And I can absolutely correlate to that statement, Gagan. And it's not easy, by the way, and you will end up making same mistakes which you have done probably earlier as well. So it's very important to embed some of these design patterns into your new modern cloud native applications, which are essentially nothing but a composition of various smaller units. Could be a microservices architecture, or could be any other service oriented architecture. But then unless you compose them well on a scalable platform, I think that is where the key is. And these are the kind of changes we are doing. So we are essentially trying to create these kind of modular apps built on microservices architecture, using containers on public cloud, as well as mostly on public cloud, at least in our case. And of course, using the right integration patterns. And then gluing the components together so well that it's easy to pass information across these components or across these blocks of the overall architecture. And hence, because at the end of the day, there's a usual term that is used for technology, is that technology is so slow. The idea is it is a direct reflection of your architecture as well. And if your architecture is sound, it's much more flexible, you will absolutely start seeing the benefits of doing a much more faster time to market and handling better scale and volume, as the business grows, or as your partnerships grow in the business. So I think this backend is absolutely essential, and I think any UI UX will miserably fail if we don't have a right backend in place. I think that's just goes without saying, and I think it's time that everybody started now realizing that, instead of really looking at just at the front end. So yeah, absolutely, all of these things are really essential to a strong backend.
Okay, noted your points, Pankaj, and let me bring here Sridhar, and try to decode the challenges that the industry faces, specifically at the back end or the infrastructure level. So Sridhar, my straightforward question to you: I'm sure you must be talking with a lot of players in the BFSI space. What do you think are the major challenges there? What do you think are the most pressing challenges faced by the Indian BFSI sector when it comes to moving the applications or the workloads to a cloud platform? And more importantly, what is the way out?
I think a lot has been covered. I don't know where to start, but let me quickly point out to 2-3 areas, right? See, first of all, I don't think anyone is going to move their core application or the core data onto a faceless cloud very soon, right? Because data being very, very important. But it's extremely important to look at the entire data residency story, as well as look at how is the data kept secure, data in use, data in flight, and the data at rest. How are you going to deal with all of them, and how do you design an infrastructure which is capable of handling it? That's number one. Second is, as we move towards creating all applications to be cloud native, one of the biggest challenges is providing an infrastructure is now second nature to most of us. But what is important is to ensure that the application becomes cloud native and they're able to run their application in a seamless manner. To be able to do that, you prepare, micro-segmented, microservices kind of architecture, you do all that. But what a code-related challenge or what a container security-related challenge can create. We saw from the SolarWinds story, we saw from quite a few of the other organizations which got beaten down because of this particular issue. Right. So containers and container security today, the concept of DevOps and DevSecOps is extremely important as you begin to design that. Right. And then third is, we talked about ecosystem, we talked about the API. Now, how do these handshake and how do they take, for example, a banking customer or a financial services customer is looking at fraud prevention, is looking at, let's say, anti-money laundering, or is looking at a payment switch, for example. These are modular applications that are required. How do you make these applications available on the cloud or on a pay-as-you-go mode, or be able to leverage off the standard available platforms to be able to provide this kind of an ecosystem becomes a challenge for players such as ourselves. And today we are trying to provide solutions on our financial services cloud, which is capable of, there is one application which we have taken and which is supported by a leading private sector bank. And what they do is, for an MSME, for all their operations, for putting them onto the cloud and getting all their operations, banking operations, as well as employee related operations, payment operations, everything to be enabled on the cloud, this particular application runs. And we have it on a pay-as-you-go mode from our IZO FinCloud, right? We have one of our first customers tenanted onto this particular platform, who is in the asset management space, right? So as we see all these layers coming up, it's not so much more of just saying, here is an application, here is an infrastructure, go run with it. But I think what is surrounding that, and I've not yet touched upon security, mind you, as you think about all these things. First of all, in all this, you're looking at identities, a customer identity, ecosystem players identity, your agent's identity, your internal identity. And we all know perimeter means today identity is the perimeter. So how do you deal with this identity and the security aspects pertaining to that? Second is, I talked about data at rest, data in flight, and data in use. And then the third one is about application related security. And lastly, all the devices that you're going to operate from. How are you going to keep those devices secure? Because anything from there could initiate. So we are talking about data leak preventions. We are talking about email security. So a simple phishing email could create a loss. So factoring in all these things into the design, because today cloud and security are conjoined twins, looking at all of them together and creating visibility, governance, and compliance is becoming the key challenge for the organizations today. And that's the space which I think all of us are trying to occupy and support them on this journey. Back to you.
Okay, noted your point, Sridhar.
Anything for me?
Yes. Okay, I will start this round of questions with you only, and I think let me come with the last question only. The way I started, the common question for all of you. I have one more common question for all of you, and maybe we can have this rapid fire round type, where I can have your answers maybe in just 1 minute, because the time is already up, watch is already ticking. So Gagan, I will start with you. And the question for you specifically is, we discussed about digital infrastructure. We are discussing about the changes and challenges that the BFSI industry is going through. So what are some of the specific business or customer trends that you are seeing right now, which will shape up the future of the whole BFSI sector, and help with all the infrastructure, and what will be the implications of IT and everything? So how the whole BFSI sector will shape up in the near future with all the digital infrastructure that we are talking about?
There are 2-3 things. One, I've already harped about a lot about how the entrepreneurial ecosystem is opening up, where a lot of entrepreneurs are building applications on top of infrastructures from big players. Right? So that is one very big thing which is happening, where you're offering APIs, SDKs, and people are building small solutions for your consumers. The other thing is the focus on compliance is significantly growing, and therefore the kind of impact it will bring in how the BFSI shape up will be high. I think there has been some consolidations, and some of those things will be happening, and more compliance will come up, and big players there will be some amount of significant change there. I think except these two, there is significant increase in the small size in terms of the small ticket size based selling. That is a very big thing. This has to happen. So the fact that micro, I don't know much about insurance, but the way micro insurance will grow, or micro customers will grow for securities also, right? So the volume based customers will become much bigger. So you have a lot of customers with small amount of revenue rather than having a small number of customers. So this whole micro ticket size thing will drastically increase, and it will drastically increase like exponential growth, right? And therefore all of us have to be prepared fully for that. I think some of these things will shape up both the infra as well as the how you build your security, compliance, the whole ecosystem for your partners to play, and offering a significant amount of product propositions around micro ticket size. That is where I will end, and I will probably head off.
Sure, Gagan. Thank you so much. Pankaj, I will shoot the same question to you. How do you see, I mean, what are the specific trends that you see, that will shape up the future of Indian BFSI sector with the help of IT?
So I think there are various, parts to it. I think organizations are now embracing a right balance between software as a service to a platform as a service, working with various, fintechs and insurtechs, for that matter, to really, reduce the friction for the customer and bringing efficiency in various operational processes. And I think leveraging the ecosystem, I think that is already now showing signs of, how this can be leveraged for the customer. But I think through blockchain and through some of the other now initiatives, like, for example, account aggregator, etc., I think all of these things are really changing the way we share information and how these can be leveraged. And I think together with the fact that the way cloud is now becoming more of a commodity, where, as I said, going through a subscription-based solutions, software as a service or a platform as a service, I think companies have now graduated from a simple use of cloud as an infrastructure, as a bare metal or a virtual machines. I think all of these things are really changing the way things are happening in the entire BFSI sector. And of course, technology with use of data lakes and federated data lakes, actually, to be more precise, are now bringing in more and more relevance of data and insights to any business process, which is obviously bringing personalization in space now more and more effectively, right from marketing to onboarding to customer servicing. And all of these processes are getting far more efficient. So all of these, I think, are really bringing that kind of change in the entire BFSI sector, the way I see it.
Okay. Ayan?
I think Pankaj has covered almost the entire gamut of at least the insurance side. I would also add a few more things from the non-life side, where I had some experience earlier. And non-life side is in fact exploding much more faster than the life side today. And in fact, as I speak, now IoTs are becoming more and more popular in most of the vehicles that we are driving. So now I think going forward, we would see that sale is going to be very customized as basis the customer profile, his driving style, especially when it comes to motor insurance. Also, the claim settlement part will also be taken care of by that way. You will see a lot of drone coverage activity happening for your areas, or like crop insurance and property insurance. And this is already started by a couple of companies in this country. It is becoming popular in the West. And I think in the next 12 months or so, with the new drone policies being introduced by the government, you would have seen last month that's coming out. Right. I'm sure that this is going to become a very popular area of technology that is going to be used by most of those companies. Wearables are the big things, which is going to now hit. I mean, now you'll see that most of the insurance companies are tying up with wellness as well as with health providers, and that is where you would see a lot of personalized service and customized product being sold because of the wearables that you and me are going to use more and more in our daily life. And home insurance is going to see a lot of technology coming in inside. Typically, with the type of your safety equipment that is being installed, that is getting now tagged with insurance systems in the backend. And we will see a lot of home insurance being governed, both the product as well as the processes in future. And this the future that I'm talking about is not long. It might be just about 12 to 18 months time. So a couple of insurers, large insurers, have already started exploring these areas. And these are some of the typical places where I see in fact technology exploding and actually being adopted in a large scale by the market. It's going to be a consumer's market going all the way forward.
Okay, noted your points, Ayan and Pankaj. Sridhar.
Okay, I think all of them have given the fantastic views. As I see it, if I just have to look at all of these in unison, it's all going to become a solid platform play. The moment you create a platform in a modular manner, anything and plug in and pick up and go with it. We talked about, Pankaj talked about blockchain also, and how blockchain could help in having the customer database well handled and properly updated and becomes a foundation for the way BFSI is going to use the data. And let me take a couple of other examples. When the Jam Trinity happened with Aadhaar and with Jan Dhan accounts and all that, now I think Gagan talked about how the ticket sizes for insurance will go down, because you're going to go further downstream and you're going to reach out to a category of audience which you've not reached before. That's just one example. Take another example. The Prime Minister talked about the Health ID, which has been launched, right? And the Health ID is nothing but another platform where everybody in the health sector is going to be present. There are going to be clinics, there are going to be hospitals, there are going to be the pharmacies, there are going to be research institutions. There, very many of them are going to take the data feeds from there and use it for analysis. And obviously, this whole thing hinges upon some form of an authentication, some form of a privacy management, and being able to provide them the health insurance also while they go for a treatment. Right? Everything is going to be paperless. Everything is going to be cardless, cashless. Now, if that sort of a platform is happening in health, imagine we are talking about all other areas where each and every one of these, from a home buyer, from an auto buyer, and the BFSI industry is going to be the sort of a nerve center for all these platforms to happen. And it takes us back to the point of how you need to have the right API, the right SDKs for you to link to all of these and be able to leverage them and bring it back to the respective customer with the customer ID, health ID, Aadhaar ID, all of them integrated. So naturally, everything is going to become one solid connected ecosystem. And from where this ecosystem is going to leverage more and more of the advantages of the platform as you begin to service more and more customers. And as Ayan put it, the customers are going to be spoiled for more and more choices. And it just enables them to be more ubiquitous with this. And for that, technology will continue to grow. And we all have to be cautious and conscious about how technology is being used rather than whether technology is there or not. So I think that's going to pose the biggest challenge. Back to you.
Noted your points, Sridhar. Thank you so much. Ayan, thank you so much. And Pankaj, thank you so much. Gagan, thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your perspective at ETBFSI and highlighting some of the important issues about the digital transformation in the BFSI sector and also the upcoming trends in the sector. Thank you so much for your participation.